This is a Rutke Mods video.
Hello, I'm Greg Rutke of Rutke Mods, and welcome to episode 31 of my Mac Pro series. In this episode, I will be showing you how to replace the logic board in your Mac Pro 1,1 through 3,1. Now, I did the 3,1 in quotations because even though the 3,1 is very, very similar, in fact, it's almost the same Mac Pro, the board is a little different and the chassis is a little different. But it's so much similar that if you follow this guide, it still will get you from point A to point B in the process of replacing your logic board in your Mac Pro 3,1. Today I will be replacing the logic board in my Mac Pro 1,1, which was upgraded to 2,1 specs. The reason why I'm doing this is so I can finally get that mythical 32 gigabytes that I've been so longing to get to work in my Mac Pro. My board, of course, is totally fine, but with that memory controller problem, I've been limited to the 16 gigabytes, and I'd like to get that 32 gigs. So for $42 or so, I got a 1,1 board. This is also a 1,1 board. It even still has the original 2 dual-core Xeons in it. So I'm installing a 1,1 board into my Mac Pro. And then I'll, of course, have to reflash it to 2,1 and update the SMC again, like you can watch in episodes 17 and 18. Anyway, so let's begin. Okay, so first off, I would recommend you laying your Mac Pro on its side. You'll first want to do these steps here. You want to remove your hard drives and your memory and all your PCI cards. We'll start off with the hard drives by just pulling them out. And then we can take out the memory. The memory on the Mac Pro 3,1 is very similar and comes out the same way. It's just the top one will be upside down, and the trays are actually a bit smaller. Other than that, this is the same process. You grab it by the holes, and you just pull, and it pops out. Then we can just remove the PCI cards by removing this screw right here, this screw bracket, and then we can start removing the cards. And there you have your gutted Mac. Now the next step will involve us taking this panel off. We can reach under it and start pulling on it, and it will lift right out. There's locking clips around it. You don't want to damage them, but they should come out pretty easily. Now we'll want to remove this fan here. Now in the 1,1, 2,1, there's only one screw you have to remove, which is right here. On the 3,1, there's another screw, which I'll put a picture to show you where that other screw is. I really don't know where it is, but I know there is another one. So I'll remove this screw, and then I'll show you what to do to get the fan out. Of course, before you do this, you will want to make sure that there are no wires actually getting caught in the fan shroud. But just take it and pull straight up. And it will pop right out. Now at this point, if you're just upgrading the CPUs, you don't have to take this piece out like all the tutorials tell you to. The only thing you need is a 3mm hex tip like this right here, and just stick it down in there and crank the screws loose. Other tutorials will have you take the memory piece out, but you don't have to. But in this case, we have to. So to remove this piece right here, we will have to remove these two screws here, remove the two screws here, and then pull this fan forward. This fan's a challenge to pull forward, and in fact it's such a pain if you're really needing to do it. You have to squeeze it and start rocking it forward, but we'll get to that point when we get there. Now my Mac Pro, of course, has been dropped, and I've already had this apart before. These two screws are connected to pegs down here, which are just attached to the aluminum on the bottom and are very easy to break. So be careful when you're removing and retightening the screws when you reassemble it. In this case, because it's been dropped, my two pegs are actually already broken. So removing the screws are kind of pointless, but I'll do this for the sake of the video. So we'll want to take a number 2 Phillips and just start removing the screws. And here's what the screw looks like. Then you can remove these screws here. Now I left the bottom screws in because currently there's not much of a point. But when your screws are out, it will start being loose. Now you have to remove the fan. There's locking tabs holding the fan in, and you have to find something flat to wedge in between to start pulling it apart. In this case, a butter knife can help. You can start pushing it in there to release the tabs, and then you can start rocking it forward. Also, a flathead screwdriver, anything flat will help you. You can just work it loose. Once you have the fan shoved forward some, the assembly should start lifting right out. Now, before you pull the complete assembly out, you will want to disconnect the fan by going down here, and the fan header is right here. We'll pull the fan out, and then the whole assembly will lift right out. Now that the memory cage is out, you'll want to take the heat sinks off with your T-handled Torx bit, 3mm. Go down in the holes and take them out. You'll want to start with A and then go with B. But before you remove them, you want to look down and disconnect the heat sensors. A's is right here, and B's is right here. And now we can remove the heat sinks. And then the heat sink should just lift straight up if you've removed the screws correctly. And if it's stuck, it's probably because of the thermal paste. But be careful not to damage the board. Even if your board's already broken, you may still be able to sell it on eBay, at least for parts. But anyway, be careful not to damage the board, especially if you're doing this as a CPU upgrade. Now remove B the same way as you removed A. Now that the heat sinks are out, you will want to remove the speaker/fan holder assembly by removing a screw from here, here, and one from back here. Once the screws are removed, watch the wires over here, and the assembly should start lifting right out. Now, it will still be attached right here. You want to make sure you disconnect that, and that would be the speaker wire right there. Once that's disconnected, it will lift right out. And now we get to the fun part. We need to disconnect all the wires. First off, I would recommend you taking a picture of everything and where all wires are located. Also, when it comes to, for instance, your airport card, you want to make sure, if you actually have one, that you have all your antennas marked so you know exactly where they go back as. Also, if you have a Bluetooth module, you want to mark that too. Okay, when you are sure you have removed all the wires, you can now take the board out. You will want to remove 8 screws located around the board. One here, one here, one here, one here, 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 and here. Okay, now that your screws are out, before we remove the board, we will want to make sure that the front I/O USB connector, aka the SATA cable right here, is removed from the front I/O board. This will prevent you from pulling the board sideways. Once that is removed, we can grab the board and slide it to the left. And then, once we are sure the I/O is completely out, we can lift from the top and tilt the board out. If it's not coming out, make sure you've slid it all the way to the left. You may have to lift it over the front I/O some, but it will eventually come out. I now have the board over the front I/O. If the board's not coming loose, pull on the back I/O some, and it should start sliding out. And once it is loose, you can tilt it forward, making sure you haven't caught any of the wires, and it will lift right out of the case. And now that you have the board out, you can now clean out the case if you'd like from all the dust. Also, this would be a great time if you have an airport card to remove that card, and if you have a Bluetooth card, remove that card and put it in your new board. Now, after you've done all this, the next step I would recommend doing is flipping your old board over if your new board doesn't have this. The boards have these rubber standoffs on them, as you can see here. You want to remove these and set them on your new board. You may have to find some glue to make sure they stick, or some double-sided tape. Once the board is in, it doesn't really matter if the glue goes, because the pressure of the screws will keep the standoffs on. Also, with the standoffs, I'd recommend checking the case to make sure there is no extra ones laying in there, like these two right here. Also, when reassembling your new board, make sure that you have the I/O shield installed if your new board does not come with one. Mine does, so I don't need this, and I can put it on my old board. Two other tips that you may need to do is, if your new motherboard does not have the heatsink back plates, you will need to remove these and put them on the new one. There's a little tab in each hole. You squeeze the two tabs and pull, and it will pop out. In this case, my new board has them, so I don't need to do that. Also, this could be a good opportunity to replace your CPUs if you're replacing your board and your CPUs are still good, or if your new board doesn't even come with CPUs, you will need to replace them, and this is a great time to do that. I have reassembled the board, installed my CPUs, and have screwed the board back into the case. Before you screw the board back into the case, make sure all your wires are still shown and not under the board. Also, when reinstalling the wires, make sure all wires are reinstalled and connected properly, including the USB SATA cable right here. Anyway, I am going to rebuild the whole system, and the next time you see it, it will be running and I'll show you how everything is set up after that with all 32 gigabytes hopefully also running. Lastly, before I finish this section of the video up, I am going to install the memory cage before the heat sinks. I assume that will make it a lot easier to install, and I am also going to include in the section where we were taking the memory cage out a suggestion to first take the heat sinks out. Anyway, so the next time you see this computer, it will be running and everything will be set up. And we have success. As we can see, everything is installed, including the RAM, and it is currently running. I have it in UEFI graphics mode right now, so I don't have to remove my video card, and I am currently running it in Lion. And as you can see, it says it's a Mac Pro 1,1, and it's got 32 gigabytes worth of RAM. So I will be flashing this board to 2,1 specs, and I'll finally have a fully functional Mac Pro to continue this series with. Anyway, that is the end of this video. Thank you for watching. This has been a RotK Mods video.